Welcome to the show. This is the final week for Christmas for shows. Basically, I'm stopping after this week doing like the 4 videos. So you have the best of the year. There's going to be a Ronan Nazarene podcast planned. I might do an odd one here or there if there's something I want to talk about, but the general kind of 4 a week thing will stop till after the new year because I'm taking a little break because it's Christmas. I don't think anyone really can be bothered watching these kind of videos over the Christmas period. I think it's one of those things. It's just like everyone takes a holiday, so I'm taking a holiday, and so I won't be around much over the next month. So to the video today is 2 films from this collection. This is Sonny Chiba Volume 2 collection, and you have one really good one and one not so good one. So you have the Great Okinawa Yakuza War and the Okinawa War of 10 Years. Now, these are both Sonny Chiba vehicles, although Sonny Chiba's in one a lot more than the other one. They're both basically influenced by Battles for Honor and Humanity. They try to be that kind of style of gangster movie, you know, where things happen over time, characters come in, some characters are killed off brutally, and you get a sense of build of the situation getting out of control. They're not as good as those films, but one of them's damn fun. One of them's really a lot of fun, and one of them's really not. It's like an example of one film knowing what it's doing and going to the side of what the template is to make a good film. A bit, even though it's gaudier and way more over the top than its model. You have another one try to stick to this model, but doing a really bad job. So I'll start with the good one. The good one is the Great Okinawa Yakuza War, which is a lot of fun. It starts slow because there's lots of complications, because in both these films it's about Okinawa rejoining the mainland of Japan after being separate after the war. They've had their own Yakuza, they've had their own way of dealing with Americans having a base there, and now they have to reintegrate to Japan. And reintegration also means integration with the Yakuza that have dominated Japan during this time. So it's like the Yakuza overseas, to them, basically they don't understand Okinawa. They look at Okinawa as Hicks, and so the Okinawa soldiers of the Yakuza hate the mainlanders. They don't see themselves as, even though they look similar, these people are foreign to them. And the Yakuza just basically come in from the foreign lands thinking, we'll take over this pretty easily. These people are wimps. It's not a big deal. And Okinawa's not a big deal to us either. We can do our things, we can, you know, we can sort it out and basically make them work for us if we play it right. So it's a thing, there's a real lack of respect, which the Okinawa Yakuza understand entirely. They understand what these people think of them. So that's the tension, and it's like, how does this tension play out? And it plays out in different ways. In the first film, the Great Okinawa Yakuza War, it plays out in a much gaudier way. But that's good though, because it's really about the passion of this situation. And this one, Sonny Chiba plays a guy who's completely opposed to the Yakuza, you know, in Japan. And he just is like, no, we don't want these people. And he will go out his way to cause trouble for the other people around him by starting wars with these, you know, Yakuza. And through the first section of the film, you see various parties vying for power within Okinawa. You've got a guy in charge of the Yakuza in Okinawa who's weak and he doesn't want to stand up to the mainland. You've got all these other men in that below him who are all kind of vying for power, and you've got one who's trying to be a civilized man within the circumstances. He's trying to he goes along with another minor Yakuza guy to the mainland to talk to the Yakuza to actually say, okay, what can we do to avoid a war? And in that time, he impresses the mainland Yakuza as someone who's a total pro. You know, just he knows what he's doing. He's a pro. He's in the life, but he knows how to be civilized about it. With the other guy who's technically his boss, is quite happy to sell out his friends to make money and to be the guy in charge of Okinawa in the future. He's happy to destroy his own infrastructure, to be a slave to the mainland, because he sees that's the way it's going to go anyway. So why create a fight when there's no way to survive? Now, he's played in this one as a total scumbag, sneaky, evil man, which is fun because his character betrays everybody, and it's fun to watch him betray everybody and cause all this trouble. But he is essentially right. And the good thing in this film is it knows he's essentially right. It just doesn't like him very much, but it knows he's probably right. He's definitely right. But it was Sonny Chiba as the kind of more extreme version of the people who will fight back. And Chiba is completely unrestrained in this film, in the way you love him. I mean, Chiba could be restrained in films and be interesting, but in this one, it's like it's letting him be like an over-the-top presence, you know, in the film, and it works beautifully because Chiba knows is a good enough actor. He can play different parts and different styles, but he understands exactly what you do when you have to be an over-the-top lunatic. He can play it perfectly. He's playing this guy who's more feral than anything else. He works by instincts, and he will go up and insult the visiting Yakuza from the mainland if he wants to. And he will run over one of the main Yakuza visitors in a car if he wants to, and keep running back and forth over the body just to make his point. He's that kind of character. And the interesting thing with this film is it kills him off halfway through. He causes all this trouble early on. He's a presence is going to cause trouble, and he has no like censor. We also see a bunch of other characters. You see a young guy who starts off in the Okinawa Yakuza at the time, and he starts off by showing how sympathetic he is by trying to rob and rape a local prostitute. These people, none of these people in the Yakuza in the lower levels are in any way decent. It portrays them as total scumbags throughout. And that's what's refreshing with the film. It is a brutal film. It is a film about people behaving terribly. Even your hero, who starts off with some morals, when the war finally comes to him, you see him and his comrades degrading themselves over time to fight the mainland and other Yakuza in the territory. In the first section, you see him actually having to deal with a rival Yakuza who has much more control than he does, and basically find himself squeezed out by this guy, and he's going to take this guy down. Eventually, once the shit hits the fan, he's going to take this guy down out of revenge. He's like, okay, I'm going to get you now. And the guy has a sidekick who's a manipulator, and you've got all these subplots going on, but they're all really fun. You've got the guy who's betraying everybody, who looks normal to everybody, and he's just quietly betraying everybody, enjoying himself while he's doing it. And everyone's a bit of a caricature. Everyone's played up a little bit too much, but the energy feels right for this story. It's like people are desperate, and none of these people are in any way defensible. It's just like they're in a bad situation, and up in a land where there's not much money, and they're trying to survive as Yakuza, and this is what they're doing. and it's an observation of the kind of passions that run through these young men, and these men who were once young and now have aged out and still have to live in this life. And it becomes incredibly nihilistic, just so nihilistic towards the end. That's what's fun about the film is it takes no prisoners. It's like its model seems to be like Hamlet, like leave no one alive. It's just so brutal, and even characters who are show some bravery, that doesn't stop them from being killed in horrible ways. It's just a non-stop barrage of violence and betrayals, and by the end of it, the guy who was once civilized is a cackling lunatic. And it's just wonderful. It's just an enjoyable film. And it uses all its actors really well. And what's good is it uses Sonny Chiba so well, because in the first half, he's like the person who's just as a beast destroying everything. And then when he's gone, it's almost like his energy is transferred to everyone else, and everyone else becomes a beast destroying everything. It's just this totally nihilistic film about how some people just cannot get on, and it's just going to lead to like piles of bodies. Oh god, I wish the other film was as good as that. The Okinawa War of 10 Years is like the exact opposite. I saw it a few days ago, and even now I'm trying to remember some of the details because I was so bored watching it. It takes place over time. I don't think it takes place over 10 years. It doesn't take place over 10 years. What it does is it's about this about the survivors of Okinawa from the war who are now Yakuza on different gangs, and they're all having to face up to the mainland coming in to Japan, and from Japan to Okinawa. And some will resist and some will not. And there's a power vacuum going on because the guy in charge and the guy who's the secretary, who's the second in command, both disagree on how to deal with the mainland. And the second in command finds ways to embarrass the boss. The boss goes over to meet the Yakuza in Japan from when the Okinawa becomes part of Japan. And the guy knows it. So there's already going to be a war between them. You're thinking, oh good, this is going to be cool. And not much interesting happens. Sonny Chiba in this one plays a guy who becomes the boss of one of the chains of commandos. So he's in it a lot more. He's a boss in this one, but he's a much less interesting character. He can't be feral. He's just a guy who's under pressure to keep his men working, even though there's not much money around. He's under pressure from everybody to keep his gang coherent, even though they're starving to death. And he's dealing with this other gang led by his friend, who's telling him he has to leave or he'll be killed because of some political thing, because a lot of people hate him. And it's how the tide changes for both characters. These two characters who are once friends, how the tide changes is the interest from the mainland changes, and how basically the investment from the mainland isn't as good as profitable as they hope for, and how that changes for the characters. Now, this all should be interesting, but it's stuck within a film that's basically too short. So you get scenes which you think are going to lead to other scenes that are going to develop carefully and create interesting dynamics. And it just feels that there's half the scenes are missing. So you get one scene of something happening, and then other things happen, and other things happen, but there's no motivation between the scenes. There's characters just fill out prescribed plot points, and you get all these scenes happening, but there's no emotion behind it. It's just like these kind of cliches are yelling at each other a lot, and you're like, I don't care. And the whole film's like that. It jumps. It should be a TV show. It's got a plot of a season of a TV show within like 100 minutes, and that doesn't work. So no character is developed in any way. People who are introduced think, oh, that must be interesting. That must be a really solid character, and then they're gone, and you don't have a chance to see why they were there in the first place. And the film keeps doing that. And so Chiba and the other guy, who's his old friend, change places a few times, have to deal with conflicted loyalties, but none of it is interesting. It feels like it is trying to be like the Battles films and The Godfather from America, but it doesn't do well at any of them because it doesn't understand how to create a coherent base for the drama. It doesn't give the actors much to chew on. It's just like, yeah, you're the noble guy and you're the other noble guy who's a bit rough around the edges, and you're loyal to each other, but you can't be in this war. But let's just stick it to that template. And you're alienated from your past because you became Yakuza in this horrible landscape. All that should be fascinating, but they're just blanks. The characters are just blanks, and no one can do anything. Not even Sonny Chiba can do much for his character. There's lots of scenes where it should be interesting, but it feels like half the film half his drama has been cut out. So it just feels like notes from what should have been happening. Like he slaps his wife at one point, thinking, "Well, that should have been built up a bit more," you know. It just feels like out of the blue. Yeah, because he's a Yakuza guy, he has to slap his wife to tell her he means business. And it goes against what he's doing in other scenes, and it's like it's not developed, and nothing's developed. Like the other guy is a lover. He's in love with a prostitute, and her brother is kind of the Yakuza, and he's not suitable for it. But there's no jobs around, and that leads to tragedy. And all that should be interesting. It's not. It just happens, and then it seems to be forgotten. And that's what's the problem with the film. Everything's built up, then forgotten till it comes in later on. It's forgotten again till it comes in later on. And by the end of it, you're just exhausted and thinking, will everybody just die? People are killed off, and then you think someone's dead or not, and you're pretty sure they should be dead, but they're not really. And there's a subplot of this guy whose eyesight's not so good, and it should be interesting, but it's not. There's a massacre scene where people get killed, and you think some people are dead. To come back later on, it's like, I thought they were dead. And the whole film is just this meandering mess of subplots where the Great Okinawa War chucked out explanations to how to get to the drama, and it's like, these stuff happen, you can fill in the rest yourself, it's okay, you can figure it out. We're not going to explain every little boring thing. In this one, we're going to explain every bit of plot, but no character. Well, Great Okinawa War is, we'll explain the character stuff, and the plot and things you can work out is confusing, but it doesn't really matter. They understand it, you don't. And that's a much more preferable thing to do, because you still get the general points in that film. In this film, you're drowning in plot points, but no one's reacting like a human being. Everyone's just reacting in a very staid manner, and it's kind of tedious to watch. And I was pretty depressed by it, to be honest, because it was like, I was so looking forward to this one after the first Okinawa film. And in the set, I was like really looking forward to this one. It looked so interesting, and it was like the least interesting version of this possible plot. It was like watching Gladiator 2, where it's like that was the least interesting version of that kind of plot. It's one of those kind of films. It's like, how can you mess up with something so good in outline? They found a way. So these are the two films from the box set. I'd highly recommend one. Another one you'll have to kind of just get through, which is a weird, because it's the first like Sonny Chiba film I've watched that I've been genuinely bored by. Usually his films, some are better than others, but they tend to be fun. This one, Okinawa War 10 Years, was the first one where I was genuinely bored the whole way through. That's a rarity for Chiba films. Chiba films tend to be fun. So, hope you enjoyed this video. Check out these films, at least one of them. But I know if you can watch one, you watch the other one in case I'm wrong. So, I'll see you all later. Bye.